Understanding technique in the martial arts is very important for your self-defense. So today we're going to cover the vital practice of your technique in Chapter 2 of Self-Defense. Stay tuned! Hey, welcome to Shihan's Dojo. I'm Shihan Marty Husband, and I'm here to talk to you today about the practice of your vital technique in self-defense. Now, we're going to continue this in Chapter 2 from where we left off, so I want you to consider going back to Part 1 if you haven't seen it, and reviewing over what we talked about last video. After that, come back and get a better grasp of where I'm going with this. Before we break down the two categories I want to talk about today, let's talk about how you should train when you're doing your own techniques. We use a process called crucial technique. And what I mean by crucial technique is there's 3 or 4 techniques, maybe 5, that you have in your back pocket that you can use in most self-defense situations. These are the ones you should continually practice, so when it comes time to defend yourself, you can actually use them. Now, these crucial techniques have to have intensity when you're practicing. Self-defense is so life-changing at that point in your life that when you have to do it, your adrenaline kicks in, your amygdala kicks in, your flight and fight syndrome just is cutting in and out, but you have to learn to control it. So the intensity you have to practice with your partner when you're doing this is like it's real. Make it feel real, because in reality, if you don't practice that as a real technique, it won't work when it comes time to do it, because you'll forget or you won't trust what you've done. Also, you have to make sure that that technique is effective. And if you do not use it with that intensity, the effectiveness of your technique isn't always shown either. Part 1 is the practice of your technique, or that crucial technique that we just got through talking about. Number 1 on this type of a practice is practicing for surprise. Now, you use that technique with your partner. It's not really a surprise, but you have to understand how you're practicing. Is the surprise? Do I come up on the center line? Is it visible for them to see when they don't expect it? Am I making sure I don't take what I call a fighting position? If I stand there in a neutral position, ready to go, is my technique going to be a surprise to this person? Is it going to make them feel like when they're coming in, they're confident, and all of a sudden I take that confidence away? That's what surprise is all about, is taking that confidence away from the aggressor at that point. 2, that quickness and speed, whether you're drawing them down the center line, coming to the outside, is that quickness not easily seen by the person, so you can actually complete your technique, whether it's to block, strike, whatever you're needing to do. Next thing to really work with, as number 3 on the list, is your balance. Now, like I said, with that adrenaline rushing through your system, it's a lot harder than you think to keep your balance, because you don't know your surroundings or anything right there. You might trip or stumble on something, but you have to kind of practice your balance. Have your partners do something odd that they expect to see the technique coming and it throws you off balance somehow, or maybe they do something to change your technique where you have to go into your secondary technique in your pocket. Okay, so understanding that balance is probably the one thing that's going to help with your quickness, your speed, and the surprise that goes with it. Number 4 is probably the most important aspect of this. It's the ferocity you have to use with this, the violence of attack, the vicious nature you have to put into your action to try to stop that aggressor. In practicing that, you might want to consider, hey, getting some padding on or something and seeing if it works. But like using the tap system as we described, try it against a small person, try it against a large person, try it against somebody your own size. Make sure that this technique is going to be effective when you have to be very ferocious with it. And when I'm talking ferocious, I want you to understand, you have to do it without thought, without anything. These people are trying to hurt you. So you have to almost take on an animal-like instinct to stop them. Part 2 is the destruction or control of the attacker or the attacker's weapon. The truth of the matter is that surprise has to stun them. It has to stop them in their tracks. It has to ring their bell. It has to make them think just for a split second so you can continue with whatever you have to do. That stun, I don't care what style you're in, that stun, whether you're in jujitsu, whether you're in karate, is the entry point at where you can finish your opponent. Sometimes it might be the finishing technique, but it's also could be the entry point at where you have to be able to start taking control of the situation. Number 2 in this is it must stop the attack. So if a person's punching you, knife, club, maybe a gun. And number 3, you destroy the aggressor's technique. All right, that's so important to understand that if he can't use that weapon or what he's attacking with, he's going to have to rely on something else that might be a little weaker and give you the advantage. That's the whole point of a surprise, stunning, stopping them, and destroying their technique. Now the thing that they were relying on is gone. One of the things I will say is some people say, well, I'll control the situation, I'll do this and that. Remember, unless you're a trained police officer or you've had years of training in controlling people, not unless you're a law enforcement or somebody who's been training for years to do control tactics. They're very specialized, and you know, people who do maybe like some sort of sticky hand operations might be able to do this easier than some people. Some people who have been training in jujitsu and police tactics and self-defense, they might also be able to do it a lot easier. But if you haven't, you need to just stick with those techniques that you've been working on. Those crucial techniques are your lifeline to getting out of a self-defense situation. And then try to practice all kinds of scenarios. I mean, don't just sit there with one scenario, a hook punch is high. Try a hook punch here, a hook punch low. Or try something like somebody's hammer fisting you or somebody's coming over with some stupid punch. Because out in the street, people aren't always as technically proficient. And if they are good fighters, they're not going to throw the type of technique you always see in your martial arts classes. So have somebody throw street techniques. It's very important you don't do martial arts techniques all the time because you're used to seeing the perfect techniques coming in. If not perfect, better than average. Later on in other videos, we'll talk about defense types, movement, how to handle certain things. We'll also share techniques and ideas that you can incorporate into your own type of fighting or understanding of self-defense. With that being said, if you haven't subscribed already, jab that subscribe button right down there and punch that bell so we can notify you when we have new videos. And please comment down there. Let us know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what we can do to improve. And most of all, something that might help you, or maybe you can give us a suggestion and improvements for what we just talked about. Maybe something I didn't even know about that I could add to this type of study. So, thank you very much for your valuable time, and we'll see you again next time on Shihan's Dojo.